The England coach, Eddie Jones, believes his side has the weapons to upset the All Blacks in this weekend's Rugby World Cup semi-final in Tokyo. That's so long as the English players don't fall into the trap of stargazing against the world champs. England and their fans are confident they can go against the tide of history. But the defending champs, New Zealand, are also set to up the ante in Yokohama on Saturday as they seek a World Cup treble. Rugby reporter Joe Porter is fresh from the latest All Blacks media conference. Joe, so we now know who our ref is for the weekend, Nigel Owens. The All Blacks will be pretty pleased with that, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely. He's the referee they would have wanted all along. Of course, he was in charge of their game against Ireland, where they really put the Irish to the sword. He's the best referee in world rugby right now by quite some distance, and it means they don't get, I won't name the man, but a slightly less competent Frenchman who is a little bit whistle-happy and has been known to make some rather large calls in terms of cards so far this World Cup. So no, the All Blacks will be very pleased to have Welshman Nigel Owens in charge of the match. He did a good job in the game against Ireland, and they'll be looking for a similar performance from him.
Hey, so Kieran Reid, our captain, was AWOL this morning from training. Is there any reason for us to be worried about that?
Yeah, well, that's right. It was the talk of the media session before the All Blacks walked in today. Why wasn't Kieran Reid at training this morning? Where was he? Steve Hansen tried to put everyone's fears to rest and said, no, he'll be available this weekend. He was just doing some extra work inside the gym on the bike. I guess it's a bit of a rest for what is a slightly older carcass amongst the All Blacks team. So giving Captain Kieran Reid a bit of a break from some of the physicality they've been training with. Sam Whitelock, the lock, was up during the press conference. He said Captain Kieran Reid simply doesn't like getting wet. It's been very rainy today here in Tokyo, and he jokes that Captain Kieran Reid just didn't want to get his hair wet in the Tokyo conditions. So no, he should be right for the weekend. No reason to be concerned at this point.
Any other injury concerns though in the squad?
Yeah, well, Matt Todd has now been confirmed that he won't be available for this week. It was suggested on Sunday that he'd re-damaged his shoulder that he dislocated earlier this year and was unlikely to be available. He's now been ruled out for this test. The All Blacks won't be seeking a replacement for him in the squad, though. If they do reach the final, they are confident that Matt Todd will be ready to go for that match. So it'll mean a little bit of a reshuffle on the bench in terms of who covers that loose forward position.
Hey, so one of the other great championships, one of the other games it seems going on is between the two coaches, Eddie Jones and Steve Hansen. So what's going on there? Are they upping the ante again?
Yes, well, they're very good friends, of course, and we know that Eddie Jones likes a bit of banter. Eddie Jones apparently has been contacting Steve fairly regularly already during this week to make sure he knows just how confident England are and how they're feeling about playing the All Blacks and just how confident they are of upsetting the world champion. Steve Hansen, apparently, he tells us today, hasn't been buying into it so far. Radio silence from Steve Hansen back to Eddie Jones so far this week. He said, though, that may change as the week goes on. Steve Hansen likes to play it by ear, and if he feels a psychological dig might help his side come out on top on the weekend, he'll send a few barbs Eddie Jones' way. But yes, radio silence from Steve Hansen so far, ignoring those texts and prods from Eddie Jones, but we'll see what pans out later in the week. Certainly the mind games do get played between coaches. They have each other's numbers. Steve Hansen readily admits that he'll go there, he'll fire off a barb, he'll have a dig if he thinks it'll help his side. By the same token, if he thinks it's best to remain silent and not say anything, he'll play the strong, silent type as well. So interesting to see how that will pan out later in the week. So far, though, radio silence from Steve Hansen.
Thanks, Joe. Good to talk to you. That is Joe Porter, or Joe Sporter as we know him, joining us live there from Tokyo.